Yeah, no. So what happens is as you're going through, it's taking this yarn and it's punching down. So imagine that the fabric is here and it's punching down, and then as it comes back up, that loop stays underneath there. And if you give me just a minute to finish these 2 rows, I'm going to flip it over and show you, because what you're seeing now is the back. So in fact, I've got to move it just a second because I'm hitting my frame on these last few rows. But as soon as I move it and get these last couple rows done, we'll flip it over and you can see what it looks like on the front side. And so what this is called is an Oxford punch needle. And you just feed the yarn through it. And really the only trick is just to make sure your yarn doesn't get caught on something, because when it does, then you get frustrated because you think you're getting the loops in there and you're not. So like if I held it here and put it in, and then I kept punching thinking I'm going, and if you look in a second, none of those punches worked. Did you see that? Let me turn it to the side. So because this has gotten caught somewhere, pretend you're punching, you think it's going in, and then you look up and you've got this big long string, and that's because it's gotten caught somewhere. So that's where people get the most frustrated, is they think, why isn't it staying? And it's because it's caught somewhere. So you just pull it back till you get back to a taut thing, and then you just start again. So these bigger punch needles use yarn. And then if you've heard of an ultra punch needle or a Russian punch needle, they use like DMC floss. So it's a much finer, same process, but a much finer look. So this is the front side. It is very relaxing. It's just, I mean, you don't have to really think. And see, you're using floss on these, but you do it from the back. So everything's backwards. So all you have to do is remember to reverse your words if you're gonna have words in it. But it's very relaxing. This was a full ball though when I started this green, and we're down to, it's getting pretty low. So it does use some yarn, but you can use any kind. So you can, if it's going to go on a wall, then you can use acrylic and not put a lot of cost in at the beginning. If it's going to go on the floor, you want it to be wool, just because it will handle the wear and tear better. But I've got 2 more rows, and then we can flip it and clean it up on the front side and show you what it looks like. And this will be my slowest row. Oh, it may only be 1 more row because I need it to line up with the purple that's above it. And it looks like I am at the last row. Have you ever seen tufting, where they're using that fast gun and they're going and making rugs with that, like on YouTube or somewhere? That is actually the exact same process. They're just using, okay, so they're just using an electric one, where I'm using a single handheld. That's really the only difference between the tufting and what I do. And I have done this about 7 years off and on. What started me on it is I knit, and so when I was knitting, you know, your pattern will call for so much yarn. Well, I always had yarn left over, and I kept thinking, what am I going to do with these extra little pieces of yarn that you can't really make anything else out of? And I was actually in Kentucky at my husband had taken me to a craft show, and someone had one of these punch needles, and I thought, that's perfect. I can do all kinds of things and use up all of that scrap yarn I have. So that was kind of my process and my thinking to getting started. And then that actually led me into, okay, so we've got a little problem with this. So I'm going to cut that off. It's just a fat piece that doesn't want to stay. So then that led into rug hooking, which is actually from the front side. You use kind of a crochet hook. It's got a little hook on the end, and you use wool strips and do that. So I've kind of gone the whole process, but I continue to do both of them. I like them both. No, this is fixed, so it does run through and feed through, but the needle can be buffed, like with a fingernail file, if you get a divot in it or a burr on it, but this needle cannot be replaced. It is fixed. So right there, I got off on the wrong row, and I was going to come out to the side. And what's really cool is when you pull your yarn back out, you just can do this with your finger, and it just goes back to normal, like there wasn't ever, you had never pushed it. Works really, really well. Very easy to correct mistakes. All right, I am to the end of the green. So I'm gonna take this off my frame, and then you'll see what a mess is on the other side, but it'll just be really fast to clean up. So here it is from the front side, and you can see how thick the loops are, how tall they are. And what I did was I pulled all my ends through to this side. Well, let's see. I have been on about 1 hour and 45 minutes, and I did this green here and this green here. So it's really just, you know, how big your project is, how fast you work, but I think it's a fast project. I think it's a art that you can see results immediately. I like to be able to see my progress as I go. So right now all I'm doing is cutting just all my tails off from my ends. And I use these scissors that have this flat side, so when I'm trimming, like that loop was too tall, I can go through here like this and everything will stay at the same height. Now, I can tell you right here, I can see, and I don't know if you can, let's see if you can see that. When you look at it sideways, now I haven't cleaned it all up, but there are a couple of little places that you can actually see back through. So I'll probably flip it back over, fill those in, and then start again. And for me, so one of the other things is you can see how flat these are laying, but how curled and poofy this one is. And that's because I steamed these. You just take, if you're using wool, you just take a wet towel, lay it over it, and then just press your iron over it, and that is what kind of releases it and flattens it out. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my knitting needle, if I find it. Oh, there it is. All right. And so you see how these lines are not clean, right? Can you see where the black is just not showing up? So what happens is when you're punching from the back side, you can't really see if you happen to be maybe hitting into another loop. And when you do that, it catches and slides over it. So the cleanup on these is a little longer, so you can see, like, see that green line, how there's nothing, you can see straight through it. That's great. When you start getting to the green and the black line, if they're not separating, you need to look, and it's probably harder to see because they're dark colors. Let me do it on the orange. So let me do it in here. I can tell you this is really messy right here. So as you're looking, these should be completely separate, but do you see how I am pulling loops? And you can sometimes see like those are separate, and then you'll hit a spot, see the black and the green are not separating, and it's because I've punched into a loop with my green, and I have to slide that black back off of there. And once you do that, then you'll start seeing your colors really be defined and separate. So, see that? And if you really see one way over, like that orange one is way on the side it's not supposed to be on, you can bet it's got black wrapped around it. And this is probably the longest part of it if you really want clean lines. If you're doing something that you don't need an outline or really clean lines on it, then it doesn't take all this. And then sometimes, do you see that orange come off of there? Sometimes when you pull them, when you've hit that other color, you've stretched that yarn, so then it'll come up with a loop that's way out of whack, and you'll just trim that off with your little flat scissors. See, like that green right there is way up there. And this black is way over here. So, I don't know if you can see that, but I'll just slide it until I can lift and get that to pop. See that black way back there? Sometimes they want to be stubborn. See, again, I should not have black way over here. See how I have black way over there? It's not me. Thanks for the follow. I appreciate it. some of these separated, then they're, when you lay them flat again, they're raised, and you're going to have to trim them. So you can see how this whole needs to be trimmed now. Shouldn't be this wonky. You should have definition. Bottom one is done. Now, can you see I have green in the pink and pink in the green? That's not supposed to be there. See the pink. Thank you. I do enjoy doing things. I like working with my hands. I like keeping busy. Now see how much cleaner a line there is now between the floor and the wall. It just takes a little bit. So let's see. Can you see how clean that line is and how wonky this line is? This one will look like that one here in a minute. So what kind of things do you like to do? Oh, cool. Okay, I have one pink one that is just being difficult. Really? Damaged photos. I used to scrapbook. I used to have lots of photos. My mother ended up giving me, she just had me come just take, I mean, bags and bags. I sat for days in my floor going through 1920s photos. And okay.